Welcome everybody. Thank you for braving cold weather to be here tonight. As some of you might have heard, Chris is unwell today, so it's my pleasure to welcome you and to introduce our special guests. First, I'd like to introduce Paul Gravett. Paul is the country's leading authority on comic art. He's a lecturer, writer on the subject, has written and edited countless articles and magazines and books, and is the creator of Escape magazine, and has recently co-edited Cartoons, Comics and Art, which is available to purchase here at the gallery. Paul's going to be in conversation with one of the stars of tonight's exhibition, a man who needs no introduction to everybody who's here tonight, the great Glen Baxter. Paul's going to be in conversation with Glen for a little bit, and then we're going to do some questions afterwards if anybody would like to. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Paul Gravett and Glen Baxter.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming this evening to Glen's Time of View, joined, of course, by the work of John Glashan, who seems to me to be a wonderful double act in a way. Surreal humour. Just a bit of context, I've shown this to Glenn a bit earlier, but my partner Peter Stanley and I, we published this magazine in the 80s. This was this issue 2, and it had 3D in the middle of it. It came with free glasses. We didn't do 3D, but we managed to work it out, and it came out perfectly. And in that, Norman Hewitt, a friend of ours and yours, interviewed Glenn for fairly early stages of the career. So that's going back a bit. And the last time I was with Glen and your wife Carol was in Bastia, in Corsica, at a wonderful comics festival. And we had Britain was the guest country. We haven't been invited back since. It was a wonderful time, wasn't it?
It was great,
yeah. So seeing your work downstairs, it's wonderful to look at the work in its original form, especially I think your colouring technique, which makes me proud. I always really asked you very much about that. And when did you start colouring your work? Because all your work, as I understood, was in black and white.
Well, originally, I did a lot of colour works, and people said, well, we like them, but it's impossible to reproduce, it's too expensive.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I did black and white. And then suddenly, it became cheaper to do colour than black and white or something, yeah.
Right.
So, anyway, that's how it happened. But the original work, they were in colour. And then when I did books, the books were black and white.
Yeah.
But now you can do books in full colour now.
I guess it's almost become too black and white again.
Black and white is now, yeah.
It's almost become a more modern trade, especially in
Black and white's the vinyl of our time. It's reborn.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to talk about was the scale of your originals, because I've seen some of the shows previously at Flowers, and that's where your artworks are considerably bigger than even the biggest ones we've got down here. You work on quite a remarkable scale. Was that a way to get your work accepted by the art world? I wonder if there was anything else. I'm sorry, Mr. Baxter, that can't have these little things on art.
Well, I think it's probably just
was size important.
it's just a failing eyesight and a trembling hand. You can disguise it on the big ones, but on the small ones, it's impossible.
Yeah.
That's how that happens.
And you're colouring with crayon. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's quite, you've chosen that.
Yeah. Well, originally, when I was at art school, I used to love the collages of Max Ernst, and I wanted to do something like that to create this kind of this strange atmosphere. And of course, I didn't want to kind of ape him by doing collage. So then I thought, well, there must be some way of doing it. And then I discovered all these old boys' annuals. I thought, well, nobody's ever used them or reused them, recycled them. And so I thought, well, I will be that man. So I stepped forward boldly and bravely and began doing them. And then, of course, I love the colouring, the old lithographic colouring, and I did lithography when I was an art student, and I just love the soft quality of the colours. So when I discovered that colour pencils could kind of recreate that, that's when I started using them a lot. Also, like everything else, it's kind of a debased art form, like plasticine, but now it can be raised up to the level of Lego, you know.
Yes. Well, you mentioned Max Ernst, I mean, and the collage process. I had a chance to go to Max Ernst as his own museum. You've been to that cycle, it's called Duel.
No, I've been
It's
there.
pretty
No.
amazing. And then, as we're celebrating, of course, the centenary of the Surrealist Manifesto, which is the sort of the umbrella that's brought you here together with Glashan, it's a kind of surrealist cartoonist. Surrealism was an influence.
We always travel by surrealist umbrellas, of course. It's de rigueur for a surrealist, yes. Yeah, so I said it was Chris's idea to put Glashan and Baxter together. Because Glashan's work used to be very, very popular and has somewhat faded, so this is a chance to kind of resurrect him.
Yeah. Did you get to meet each other?
No, I never did. But he worked for the Observer.
Yeah.
When I worked for them too in the early 1980s, I think.
It seems, I knew through the cartoon art trust when he won the Lifetime Achievement Award.
I've heard so much about him. Yeah.
But so you didn't get to meet, but in terms of your approach to recycling, do you still have a collection of these old boys, mostly from boys and girls, storybook annuals?
Yeah.
They were annuals that nobody really wanted to buy, did they? Because they just had endless somewhat turgid stories, and then they provided your visual vocabulary for the.
Yeah,
for the
I've got a small collection of about 8,000. But
and what's the most?
12 and 6.
There you go, 12.
It came about because when I was looking into Max Ernst's work, the collages, they were pages torn from old Victorian magazines and books, and they were steel engravings, and they were sold in flea markets all over Paris and most of Europe, and they were cheap and accessible, and they could be revitalized with imagination. And so I did the similar thing with the boys' annuals, which were cheap basically and easily accessible, and never having been used before, they were kind of virgin territory. You know? So I stepped boldly in. Yeah.
Do you know any of the names of the artists? Have you done a bit of digging around? Because they weren't signed very much, credited.
Well, the ones that were signed are less interesting. I prefer the sort of hack work that was going on. But there was one artist whose name I remember, because my brother, he was a big Beatles fan, and he had lots of Beatles books in our house. And there was an artist called Stead, who used to illustrate the Beatles books. And there was a certain book, I think it was called Biggles Delivers the Goods. And there would be like an illustration. It was pale blue and grey, and underneath was a little caption. And the caption on this drawing of some men sort of jumping out, and it said, "Blue jackets faster than Ginger could count." And I thought, well, what does that mean?
Did you read the story?
No, I never read the story. No. That would spoil the mystery. Pull yourself together.
Really happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the beginning of it, really. That's something in my brain sort of seized up, and the rest took over, really.
Yeah. And in terms of your career path that led you into being published more widely outside of the UK, and I know you crossed over across the Atlantic and were adopted by the poetry scene in New York.
Yeah.
Had some publishing there. But what enabled you, do you think, to make it back to Britain? Was Britain ready to be free for Baxter?
It was Cheap Airfares by Freddie Laker, actually.
Yeah. £59 one day.
Yeah, exactly.
You bought your tickets from Victoria Station. Did you do that?
No, I found mine in the
Going to
street.
America. So it was amazing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, actually, the thing was, I went to art school in Leeds and got so disillusioned by the art world that I became a poet, and I began writing these short prose poems, and had given up any thoughts of being an artist. And I was invited to New York to read my poetry in St. Mark's Church on the Lower East Side, which was actually a kind of a famous bohemian venue. And suddenly this idiotic Englishman in a tweed suit arrives and starts reading his poems, and the audience just fell about laughing. So I thought, well, this is a good side, because I had nothing here, no response whatsoever. And so I met various people, artists and filmmakers, and I showed them some small drawings, and they said, "Oh, you should exhibit your drawings as well." It was the Americans encouraged me to show them together, and that's how the
At this point, you're doing drawings without captions. And
Yeah.
You gradually realise you can bring captions.
they sort of collided. Yeah.
Perfect marriage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you? Your career has taken you far and wide. You're very well known in France, and also, by the way, I know you were in New Yorker for a time, quite regularly.
I still am.
Are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in France, I believe you're known as Colonel Baxter.
I am. Yes. Quite right. Yeah.
Is that official? Is that right? How did that come about?
It came about because actually I did a drawing for the Observer. They wanted me to do like a little page, and I thought, well, I'll pretend to be Colonel Baxter and do a thing about men in pith helmets, and then just sort of stuck with that really. And so the French, being ever so gallant, adopted it. Yeah.
How are you received across the channel in France, in particular?
Across the channel. Well, they were very, very helpful. I had my first big exhibition in a museum in Sable d'Olonne, and then Paris afterwards, and then Angoulême. And the French have this wonderful sense of they appreciate graphic styles, and of course they have a wonderful tradition of great graphic art, and so they're welcome people into that fold. And I seemed to be that the French regarded me as quintessentially English. So along with Agatha Christie, red pillar boxes and warm beer, I was welcomed into the hearts of every Parisian.
Have you met French artists when you've been over there? Have you had people? Now, I think someone like Topor.
I met Topor, yeah. Roland Topor.
Top was amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing and also dead. So that helps. Yeah. And, yeah, I had a show at Sater, which is used to be the French government tobacco museum, and Roland Topor came to that, and yeah, that was interesting. And I met a few others, but I don't really remember that.
Now, how about in New York? I was thinking, did your time coincide with you getting a chance to meet someone like Steinberg or even Philip Guston, or who were you meeting there when you were there? Have you since connected, perhaps?
Most of the tax man. No, actually, the reason I was in New York a lot was because my books were published here by Jonathan Cape and published in New York by Alfred Knopf. And the editor at Knopf was a man called Bob Gottlieb, who for many years was a great Baxter fan. And when he transferred to become the editor of the New Yorker, he asked me to send in some drawings, which I did then by fax. And so I sent in 20 drawings to him, and they published 20 drawings. And nowadays, if you send in one, in 1,000 gets through. But these were kind of golden days, really.
I presume you did do a New York cover or two?
I've never done a cover, no, because that's Francois Mouly.
Francois Mouly, yes.
Doesn't really appreciate the work of the great master himself. So.
And you've done, you did an autobiography, didn't you, of a sort?
Apparently, yeah.
Yes. How much of that was?
Well, like everything else. So I think the Baxter world, it's all fabrication. Yeah.
And have you, for some of your themes that interest me as well, because there are definitely recurring motifs. What is it, first of all, with cowboys especially? Because there are a lot of Western storybooks, aren't there? You were a child of the 50s, particularly, weren't you? You were born in 44, so you were growing up late 40s into the 50s.
Yeah.
When cowboys were absolutely everywhere.
They were.
Yeah.
Leeds Market was full of cowboys. You couldn't get on a tram in Leeds without brushing past in leather. Extraordinary. Because now it's commonplace down on Compton Street, but then it was quite rare in those days. Yeah.
Just tell me what's it?
The fact of the matter was that if anyone was growing up in Leeds, during the grim post-war years, you needed to escape.
Oh, yeah.
And the easiest route was to go to the cinema. And in those days, they would change the program 3 times a week.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's
So-
almost like TV.
Better than television, because
Yeah.
because it had smellier seats. And they, in every program had maybe a cartoon, a newsreel, and a major film, the A film, and the B films were always cowboys, always in black and white. And so I was kind of completely immersed in cowboy lore by the time I left Leeds.
So you want genres that you haven't touched on from those storybooks, but things like maybe science fiction, that's not such a dominant thing, and war comics, I thought perhaps, and maybe even I mentioned superheroes, which obviously must have crossed your path. You've stuck to certain genres, including a lot to do with wimples and snooze, which many people have to Google to find out what they are.
That's good, actually. The people are.
Relates, I imagine, to some of the more sort of medieval historical sort of educational word content that were in these.
Well, my parents were very old-fashioned. Well, my father used to go to work in a wimple. I mean, I think he was known as the talk of the town in those days.
And your new work is some of the work is being done now for flowers, on a very, very large scale.
Yeah.
And do you have people helping? Because it must be a lot of, you must get through an awful lot of crayons. What do you do? I mean, it's a crayon, isn't it?
It's crayon, colour pencils, yeah. Yeah, I go through about 1,000 pencils a week, actually. Yeah. And some of them I even use.
So we have some questions. By the way, if you're wondering, just briefly, you might wonder why you're wearing a badge. You told me about this marvelous rhubarb badge.
Yeah, my sister gave me this little badge here, which is a stick of rhubarb, which designates the fact that I'm from Leeds, which is part of the rhubarb triangle of Yorkshire. Okay, yeah. So the rhubarb triangle is Leeds, Bradford, and Wakefield. And if any of you have read the autobiography of Keith Waterhouse, which is called City Lights, which has got an African Grimshaw painting on the cover. Anyway, the first sentence in that book is, I was born in Leeds, the rhubarb capital of the universe. Now this is an homage to Keith Waterhouse.
We have a hand up, please.
Yes, so could you just tell us, you have these extraordinary images and captions. Which comes first, the caption or the image? Or do they come together?
It depends. There are certain words like snood, for instance, or wimple, that I want to try and incorporate into the drawing. So I kind of fish around, and then sometimes years later I get that, and I'll give you an example. That the word clandestine, I wanted to use it, but it didn't seem right. I tried it on various things and it didn't work. And then I was doing a drawing about cowboys having a meeting in the moonlight, and I thought, well, this is great. I can use the word clandestine here. And so it said, clandestine meetings of the Jane Austen Society were held every other Thursday. So I managed to get it into the drawing after a long, tortuous struggle. Technically toll on my health, I can tell you.
Is there a word that you've yet haven't managed to get into one of yours?
So, how about litotes?
We looked this one up, in fact,
Yeah.
to find out. Who knows what litotes means? Look at come on, you clever clogs. What does it mean?
Understatement.
Understatement, you're quite right, it is understatement. But there are other words that you are words that you've learned. Is there anything you haven't used, or you're still looking for the right cartoon?
I can't think of.
No. But there is a Baxter vocabulary.
There is, which actually was born out of my my childhood stammering, because words were difficult, and you had to pretend that you were in command of those words, even though you weren't. And so for many years I had this terrible stammer, and then I overcame it. And so, in fact, I use certain words in my drawings, which is the artist grappling to take control over the language. In a way, it's kind of Revenge of the Stammerer. You know, I came out on top eventually.
There's another question. It's just there.
I wasn't aware that you were this well known and popular in France. I lived in Belgium for many years and I was introduced to this type of graphic art there. And of course, they've got a great surrealist tradition as well.
I agree.
How have you escaped the notice of the Belgians, or is just my ignorance?
It's easy because everything in Belgium is surreal. So in fact, I'm known as a social realist in Belgium.
Magritte's someone that you admire, by the way, a lot.
I love Magritte, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I've got a question.
Yes, please. Oh, hello.
Glenn, can you tell me the make of your coloured pencils?
Certainly not Posey Simmons, how dare you? Actually, to be quite honest, I like Carandash, and I like
A great cartoonist, by the way.
I like Derwent is also good, and there used to be an American pencil called Charisma,
Yes.
which is now
You
doesn't
can't.
exist. Yeah,
Yes.
so I had to buy some at auction in a sale a few years ago.
Do you? I think you use those, don't you?
Yes.
Because the colours were the colours in Charisma were fantastic,
Yes.
especially the blues. Difficult to get a really good blue.
So there's now kind of a black market for the last remaining
A
stock.
black and blue market, yeah.
Yes, please, sir. Hello.
Could I ask, where did your fascination with Robin Hood begin?
Where did it begin? I think it was Errol Flynn in the Adventures of. I remember going to see it as a child. My mother was so embarrassed because I was in the aisle fencing all the time. And I think I actually killed three attendants during the course of the film. But it made such an impact on me because it was all that wonderful colours. And also there was a few little glimpses of Wimples in the background. So that's why I found it so endearing as a little Yorkshire lad.
Anybody else? You haven't asked a question over here? Do you have some questions?
They're all desperate to leave now, I can see.
Do you work regularly these days? Are you still making new pieces?
Only every day.
Only every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're a half timer.
Sorry?
So you only work half time.
Half time, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeping hours, yeah.
And how long does one of your drawings take to make?
About 6 minutes.
Oh, it must take a long.
Takes a little bit longer, maybe 7.5, 8.
You have a unique lettering style, don't you? You've got, what are you trying to kind of recreating a slightly splotchy kind of printing effect or something? Or am I mistaken? If you looked at it, isn't it?
If you're referring to my medical condition, no, the lettering, I was trying to find a way of making the letters look sort of compatible with the drawing, as if they were meant to be together rather than not. And I tried various things, and some styles of handwriting don't go well. But this, I settled on this kind of clumsy capital letters. And it turned out that when Thames Huxley were doing my autobiography, Glen Baxter's Life, the Years of Struggle, they needed to find a typeface that was very similar. And so it's called Times Broken, which is rather appropriate, really. Yeah. It's Times Broken. So that's me, I'm Times Broken.
Well, maybe it's appropriate because your cartooning is breaking in a surreal way with all kinds of rules and all kinds of normalities.
But not in Belgium.
So who is your favourite surrealist apart from Ernst? And have you seen, by the way, the exhibition at the Popular, the most amazing exhibition on surrealism, which is until next year. It's just astonishing exhibition, very, very impressive. Do you have other favourites?
Favourite surrealist? Well, we have to be Magritte.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the ideas and the execution are just perfectly coming together.
Right. I came across, is it Valentine or something, Penrose, a British artist? I think related to Roland Penrose. Someone may know about this. And she made some extraordinary collages as well, didn't she?
I was really more interested in the spirit of surrealism, which encompassed cinema, theatre, writing, poetry, and art, rather than specifically one section of it. Because I remember watching a Busby Berkeley film when I was at art school, and I said to my mother, I said, "This is surrealism," looking at the screen. And she said, "No, Glenn, it's Hollywood." she had a point actually, but it seemed to be everywhere. You know, the spirit was there, and I embraced that spirit.
And it's still perhaps more needed now than ever, or
it's never going to go away. I mean,
no matter how surreal the world, the so-called real world becomes.
The real world has overtaken everything else. It's surreal nonsense.
Yes. Well, on that note, any last questions? Otherwise, I think we have a question from you.
Are you planning a sequel to the Years of Struggle?
Yes,
there's more years.
The years of indifference. Okay.
Thank you very much for running.
Thank you.